Everybody, welcome. It's Randy Justice, and I want to welcome you to the show this week. I am so excited to have you guys here. Our first, uh, our first two episodes went really well, and today we're going to take on a totally different subject. We're going to talk about lying and law enforcement, and the fact of that law enforcement can lie to you, and a lot of people just don't realize that. So that's something we're definitely going to be talking about here. Um, got my notes. Got my notes because I don't want to lose my place. So let's get started. If you're new to the channel, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button. If you've not subscribed to the channel, I also encourage you to hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I go live or when I have a new video on, and like the video and to help it get out to all the algorithms and stuff that's going on. Anyway, whether you're watching it live or whether you watch it later, this is a great subject. I think, as a former law enforcement officer, I do have some expertise in this field, just a little bit. But I want to talk to you here and just ask the question here: does everybody out there know? Do you know that most of the time it's totally illegal for a law enforcement officer to lie to suspects during interrogations? Oh, yeah, though I might clarify, we don't call those interrogations. We call them those interactions interviews. Uh, Law enforcement is prohibited from using physical force during interrogations. However, they are allowed to use a variety of very powerful psychological ploys to extract confessions from people. Now, me myself, do I agree with that? No, not really. I don't. I don't. My philosophy is if you've got the evidence and you know somebody did something or you just want to question them, that's perfectly fine. But to have to lie to them, to me, because the problem is we're going to get into it is the fact of that if you lie to law enforcement officers in most states, it's a felony, but they can lie to you all day long. Um, they can lie and make false statements to get a confession from a suspect. And these tactics have terrorized innocent people into confessing to crimes they didn't commit. And as a former law enforcement officer, I can tell you it happens all the time. And a lot of people say, why would you confess to a crime that you didn't commit? Well, here's the problem with the whole system. Uh, they can hold you in some states up to 72 hours before they charge you. They can keep you in an interview room uh, that whole time. They do have to give you something to drink. They have to give you some food, but they can keep you in that room the whole time. They can deprive you of sleep by just not letting you sleep, and they come in and interrupt you at any time. And yes, Melissa, hey, good to see you on here. Yeah, in a lot of states, it's a felony to lie to law enforcement, but yet again, they can lie to you. So with all those tactics, and there was a case one time that I remember, and I'm not going to mention any names, just for the simple fact of that to protect the people involved. But there was a armed robbery that happened at a convenience store. They had a great description of the robber that did it. So they arrested the guy that matched the description, and they interrogated him. I'm sorry, interviewed him for over 24 hours. And by the time they were done, he confessed to doing it. Should be an open and shut case, right? Well, you would think so, except for the fact of once he got a lawyer and his lawyer started digging into things, his lawyer found plenty of receipts, video footage of him in another city, and everything at the time of the robbery. The guy was nowhere near that convenience store. But because of the psychological ploys and tactics that the law enforcement personnel used, he confessed. So people can be coerced into making false confessions. Um, Things a suspect can be told is that their friend or another suspect confessed and said that they, along with the suspect, committed the crime being investigated. That occurs even when no one has confessed to anything. Again, the lie. Law enforcement can say they have evidence such as fingerprints linking the subject of the interrogation to the crime, even if no sub, um, even if no evidence exists. Um, these type of tactics where law enforcement lies about having confessions from other people or having evidence when none exist have led to horrific convictions um, based on false confessions. Uh, there was a very notable case. One of the most notable cases is the Central Park Five. You may not have ever heard of them, but the Central Park Five case revolved around the horrific assault and rape of a 20-year-old Trisha, and I'm going to butcher her last name. I know Meili, Meili. Her body was discovered in New York City's Central Park on the morning of April 20th, 1989. She had been raped repeatedly and spent 2 weeks in a coma, and when she come out of the coma, she had no memory of the attack. New York City Mayor Ed Koch called it the crime of the century. There was, of course, widespread public outcry for a quick arrest and conviction of those responsible. And that's exactly what happened when Anton McCrae, 15, Kevin Richardson, 15, Yusef Salam, 15, Raymond Santana, 14, and Corey Wise, 16, who came to be known as the Central Park Five, were arrested and convicted. I see that Melissa asked a question: how difficult is it to overturn a charge if evidence come out that it was a false confession? Well, it depends on the case because in some cases it's very hard. There have even been instances where someone lied about someone either committing murder or an assault, and then they come back and recant and said they lied about it, and a lot of judges still won't let the person out of jail because they say, nope, he was convicted, that was it, doesn't matter that you recounted, and they don't believe the person. They believed him the first time when they said, yeah, this person did it, but then they don't believe them when they say, nope, I lied and they didn't do it. So very unfair. But getting back to the Central Park Five, uh, the case of the Central Park Five involved police officers lying to teenagers under the pressure of police deception tactics. In 2002, after serving sentences that ranged from 6 to 13 years for their convictions, new DNA evidence and a confession proved convicted rapist Matias Reyes was the true lone culprit. The charges against the five men were vacated and they eventually received a $41 million settlement. So here's the problem. There we go. We convicted five men were convicted, five teenagers were convicted, tried and convicted of a crime they never committed. Uh, and public outcry is the worst thing. You hear, and especially it seems with sex crimes, that once it's out there that somebody gets accused of one, everybody finds them guilty with no trial, no evidence, no anything. It's the one crime that I've seen where people believe that that person is guilty just because they were accused, even if they never did a thing. And it's a real shame. And the shame about that is that years ago, we never believed victims when they would come forward and report sexual assault. And now we went totally the other way before we believe them, regardless even of evidence. There's been 375 DNA exonerations that the Innocence Project has recorded where false confessions contributed to 29% of wrongful convictions. Law enforcement, unfortunately, they may tell you that they know you're guilty during an interrogation because the results of their investigation clearly indicate that you're guilty, even when the investigation is not yet complete and they have no such evidence. This is the first step in a guilt presumptive interrogation. Again, what I said a minute ago. You, instead of the innocent until proven guilty, which everyone's accused of a crime is supposed to be, is you're innocent until you're proven guilty, there becomes this, you're just presumed guilty. And that gets in the minds of a whole lot of law enforcement officers and prosecutors and the general public. So the, the first step in the guilt presumptive interrogation method, known as the Reed technique, which permits the use of deception to get a subject to confess. again, what happened until prove innocent until proven guilty. So I've already talked about the case of the robbery. And again, that guy was 200 miles away when that robbery happened, but yet he falsely confessed. And there is a whole lot of reasons that somebody would make a false confession. And that gets into the psychology of it, which I am not. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not somebody that works with the mind. So I can't get into what all those things are. There's a lot of good resources out there to that. But let's discuss minors and false confessions. There was a study that was published in Law and Human Behavior that found younger and more suggestible participants were more likely than older and less suggestible participants to falsely take responsibility. According to the National Registry of Exonerations, 36% of children under 18 years of age confess to a crime they didn't commit. Also, 10% of adults confess to a crime they didn't commit. And again, that's what I'm saying. It happens all the time. And again, it gets back to the psychology of someone's mind, and I can't get into that. And you're you're absolutely right, caveman. The only word out of your mouth should be lawyer. I totally agree. The read technique, along with the vulnerabilities of children, has led to an unacceptable rate of false confessions. Law enforcement will convince people that denying they did anything wrong is pointless and confessing is their only option. Uh, I blame the Supreme Court of 1969 for this horrific tactic. Uh, there was a case, Frazier versus Cupp. The U.S. Supreme Court decided to allow confession into evidence, even though police falsely told the suspect that his cousin had already confessed and implicated him in the crime. That ruling has since been used throughout the country to sanction police deception in the interrogation rooms. So, in my opinion, if you're ever accused of a crime and law enforcement wants to interrogate you, again, just like Caveman said a minute ago, keep your mouth shut and ask for a lawyer. I've watched way too many times. I mean, in law enforcement, I saw it all the time. There's people that would commit to crimes for a whole host of reasons. Sometimes it was because of the tactics that were used on them. Um, yes, Melissa, those interviews are supposed to be recorded, and that has actually gotten a lot of cases thrown out of court before, because when somebody actually reviewed those recordings of the interviews, they realized that the police used the wrong tactics or unlawful tactics, even that went far beyond what we're talking about right now. Um, but it's really kind of a shame what our whole system has become. And again, I've watched it way too many times, and I don't know. And I wonder if there's anybody out there that's watching right now that's ever experienced something or knows somebody that's went through that. I know a lot of people. I know that there was a case. There was another case that was here in Knoxville. This was years ago, and again, I'm keeping names out of it. But there was a young girl um, who her dad came home. He could tell something had happened at the house. She accused two boys of raping her. Again, rape's a horrific crime. Don't get me wrong. And if somebody goes out and assaults somebody, especially sexually and stuff, yes, they need to be punished for that. But she gets taken to the hospital to do a rape kit on her. For anybody that doesn't know, that's where they do swabs, look for DNA evidence, and all that. And the two boys were hauled in for an interview. So these two boys were just panicking and going through everything in the interview room when detectives had them in there. And the only thing that saved them, to be totally honest, because everybody just believed they did it. The nurses and doctors at the hospital, her dad, and everybody that heard her story just believed it. So the two boys said, they claimed their innocence the whole time. They told detectives we didn't do it, and they said, "Do you want to see the video?" And they're saying, "What video?" "Yeah, we recorded the whole thing." They told detectives where the video was of this whole incident and stuff because they said it was consensual between them all. Detectives got the video, they watched it, they let the two boys go. So not only was it consensual, but the girl directed everything and actually told the boys what to do because the boys were really inexperienced and didn't have a clue what they were even doing. She directed the whole thing. So the detectives let the boys go. They go back to the hospital. They call the dad out, and the dad, of course, his reaction still because this is his daughter. She wouldn't lie to him. So he says, "Did you get them? Did you lock them up? Did you take care of them?" And the detective said, "I think there's something you need to see." So they showed him the video. What an eye-opening experience for that father. So he goes in, tells his daughter to get dressed, get all of her stuff on, and he's taking her home right there. And of course, the nurses go ballistic. "What do you mean? And the detectives are like, "Nope, stop. He has every right to take her out of here. There's reasons for it." So after he gets her out of there and everything, the nurses ask the detectives, "Why did you let her leave? She's a victim." So the detectives proceed to tell the nurse this is the whole story and what really happened, and then proceed to tell them, "You can't believe everything you're told." And that's really the truth. I've always said for years that the truth is there's two sides to it, and normally the truth is somewhere in the middle. Two sides to every story. I've watched some interviews, interrogations, whatever you want to call them, that I felt very uncomfortable in, but was not in a high enough position to do anything about it. I left law enforcement in 2013 because there were just things that I didn't agree with. Now, that's not to say there's all law enforcement officers aren't bad. I still have a lot of great friends that are law enforcement officers and they do things the right way. They are human, they make mistakes just like every one of us, but they do everything they can to do things the right way. But there are those who they're like a dog with a bone that when they believe someone's guilty, they believe they're guilty. And that rolls over into multiple areas of law enforcement, not only here we're talking about false confessions and people being able to lie, not being able to lie to law enforcement can lie to them, but it rolls over into bias even in evidence collection. People watch these shows on TV like CSI, NCIS, and all these shows, and they think that you get a fingerprint from a scene and it gets run through a computer and boom, just spits out the exact person that matches. Real life's not quite that simple. And I did a video a while back on fingerprints. I don't know if anybody saw it. I encourage you to go back to my YouTube channel and watch that video. But you get latent prints, you get partial prints. And the problem is that when even if the computer finds a match, then it's up to somebody still in a back room with a magnifying glass to look at those prints and make a determination physically, still looking at them, whether the prints match or not. It was found, and I believe if I have this correct, I don't have it right in front of me, that there was an FBI study, the statistics prove there was a 59% chance of false identification of fingerprint matching if the examiner thought and was kind of convinced, guided by the detective involved, that that person did it, that they had other evidence. So I guess what I'm saying is that's the whole thing. You get lied to all the time, and most encounters with law enforcement don't get to this point. But unfortunately, in these cases, it is what it is. But a lot of people don't know that law enforcement will lie to you. They will tell you all kinds of things to try to get a confession out of you. Um, any for those of you that are watching right now, any more questions, any thoughts, any comments? And again, thank you for everybody that's watching live. And thank you for everybody that's going to be watching this video later. This is a little shorter than my last two episodes. Um, but it's, I was hoping we were going to have more people live so we get a lot more interaction and questions. But that's the story with lying in law enforcement. Uh, totally agree, Wedge. Everybody does need to learn their rights. It's very, very important. And that's the thing, when you hear those rights, you have the right to remain silent. That's the first one. I suggest you use it. Um, and you have a right to an attorney. So that next one is lawyer. um, and it just, yeah, a lot of people think that some people think asking for a lawyer is equal to you saying you're guilty, but it's really not. Um, I was in a position once where I got accused of something, and the first thing I did was I called the best lawyer in town, um, because I knew that I needed somebody that could navigate the law better than me. There's a reason that judges will tell you that it's not a good idea for you to defend yourself in court, to have a lawyer present. That there's a good reason for that. And because you asked for a lawyer, that doesn't mean you're guilty. But it's interesting. In my case, detectives had called to ask me about this. That About what I was accused of, and the minute that I told them I had a lawyer, they didn't want to talk to me anymore. Isn't it funny how it works that way? They don't want somebody that knows their playbook. And what's funny is these and I'll call them what we did when we were on patrol. These defectives, I'm not going to call them detectives, didn't even do their homework enough to know that I worked in the same department they were from and knew all their tactics. So, so call me and tell me, will you? And I'm telling you how they do it. They'll do this. Hey, this is so and so from whatever law enforcement agency, and we'd like to know if you'd come in and talk and help us with the matter. We need your help with it. Again, here goes the lies. Not going to tell you you've been accused of something, but we need your help with something. And Melissa, you're right. One incident can definitely change your mind. And the sad thing is that anybody can accuse you of anything. And we see it all the time. We see it play out in the news all the time. When you go back, and as a matter of fact, a really good one is when you go back to Brett Kavanaugh when he was getting nominated for the Supreme Court, and the lady that came out and accused him of a sexual assault years ago, but her stories didn't add up. She was all over the place with it, changed at different times, and there was no evidence there. The FBI investigated, there was nothing there. But half the country believed he did it just because she said it. And Wedge, that's a great thing. Yep, don't answer questions. You want a lawyer? Then shut up. That's exactly it. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys being on here. Again, if you're watching this later, if you're watching it now, if you've not subscribed to the channel, I encourage you to do so. Hit the notification bell so that anytime that I go live or post a video, and I've got some more coming up, that you'll be notified. And of course, if you like this video and the subject and stuff, hit the thumbs up so that the algorithms will get it out to more people. And this has been a little shorter show than our last two. I hope you guys are enjoying them. If you have any ideas for future shows, please leave them in the comments below. Also, in the description below, I have a link to the article I wrote on this very subject with all the references and stuff and where I got them. So feel free to go visit that, read the article. And again, thank you everyone that come on here with me live. Thank you for everybody that's watching this later. And I hope you guys have a wonderful night, wonderful weekend. And I will see you guys back here live on the podcast next Thursday. Oh, that's a great question. Why are lie detectors still used when they're not proven accurate? Well, I tell you what, that's something I wondered if I was going to do next show. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. The very next episode, next Thursday at 6 p.m., we're going to get into polygraphs because there is no such thing as a lie detector. I love how movies still like to use that. We're going to get into polygraphs and why they're bunk science, in my opinion. As a matter of fact, I can tell you point blank that I know that people have out and out lied on the polygraph test and passed, and I know people that have told the truth and failed. And it's not in the test or the machines, it's in the examiner that's giving it. So next Thursday, 6 p.m., join me back here live, and we'll talk about polygraphs, what they are, what they aren't, and how they're misused all the time. Anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful night, have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next time here.